Welcome to Geometry Grading for Learning video, where we are going to talk through some of the vision, the class setup, some of the assessment types, and some other cool things that Grading for Learning is going to bring to our geometry classes at Lipscomb Academy. As we start, let's look at the vision of Grading for Learning that will help us better understand what we're going to be doing this year. So, Grading for Learning is to help students take responsibility in their learning. This technique will be used to to assess understanding of content material taught in class and the ability for students to show knowledge and mastery over the material learned in the previous lesson. Students will also be able to earn chances to show mastery after an initial attempt on the daily performance task if the first performance did not meet expectations of the student. This will allow students to take ownership and responsibility of classwork, homework, and assessments of material. If mastery is shown twice, students will have the opportunity to be exempt from sections on unit tests. These opportunities are available to give students hope in continuing to find ways to learn and to be prideful of what they can and will accomplish. Grading for Learning is explained in further detail on the following pages. So, two things that Grading for Learning that stands out to me is that, one, it's going to allow students to take ownership, but it also allows for students to earn chances to take assessments again. So those daily performance tasks that we'll talk about later are going to be able to retake if we do not meet our expectations of the student. So that's an exciting thing. And also, if mastery is shown twice, students actually get to be exempt from the section on the test, which again we'll talk about later in detail. So those two things are pretty cool for that Grading for Learning is going to bring. So classroom setup. Each day, students will come into the classroom and they will be given a 5-question daily over the material from the lesson taught the previous day. So if we go over lesson 1 on Thursday, when they come in on Friday, they will take a daily from lesson 1 just to see if they understand the material. The rest of the class period will then be spent covering the next section, and as normal math classes do, homework will be assigned every night and checked for record during the next class period. After 3 or 4 lessons and dailies, we will then take a review quiz that covers all the lessons since the previous one. Once the lessons are all covered in the unit, we will then, as normal, take our unit test. Here is just an overview of what your grade book will look like set up. So we are calling Unit A, Unit B, and Unit C. And we will also have monitored checks, which will be 0%, and we will get into what those actually mean in just a second. So we are going to have 4 assessment types that we will use throughout the year. And all of this is subject to change. We are all kind of venturing in this together. So the first type is called the daily, which is what I kind of explained earlier. It's going to be assessed on 1 lesson. And the grade book is going to be set up like this, so you kind of know what you're looking at. Students will be able to earn reassessment twice on this. So that's an exciting thing that's going to come with Grading for Learning, and that will also be spelled out a little bit more in that daily quiz reassessments. And each of these dailies are going to be worth 5 points each. So you can think of this as just like a mini assessment that will just specifically be targeting that one lesson. So the next type of assessment is projects and constructions. Projects is just an extension of the lesson taught in class. We're trying to use real-world application through hands-on learning. Most projects will be equivalent to a test grade. So what we're trying to do here is differentiate instructions and kind of grab attentions of maybe people who don't test well all the time or are more creative or like art or like to take pictures, some of those types of things that will go into our projects. And then we will also do construction. This assesses knowledge of the student used on basic construction using rulers, protractors, compasses, and those type of mathematical tools. Point values will vary because depending on the scope of the assignment, if it is more in-depth, we might make it worth a few more points. Moving right along to our third assessment type, which is the review assessment. This is going to assess approximately half the unit. So if we have gone through sections 1, 2, and 3, we might stop and make our do a review assessment. So the grade book would be broken down into our review assessment. So note the different coding for those review assessments. In this particular assessment, students will not be able to reassess. So they can reassess on the daily, but they will not be able to reassess on the review. And each of these review assessments will be broken up into lessons, and each of those lessons will be worth 10 points each. So one daily quiz might total 40 points if we have 4 lessons that we have covered within that review quiz. And our fourth assessment will be our chapter test, where we will be asked to the students to complete it within the time limit. It will assess the full unit, so each lesson that we have learned in that unit will be assessed. And again, here is the coding that you will see in the gradebook. Students will not be able to retake this test. We feel as if we want them to earn those opportunities before the test and hopefully master everything that's within that unit before that test is given. If we have 6 lessons that were in the unit, then we will have 6 sections in the test, and each will be worth 15 points. So if a test might be worth 90 points, some tests might be worth greater or less than 90 points. So it just kind of depends on how many sections we cover within that unit. Students may be exempt from sections on the chapter test, which this is the cool part. So if you show mastery up front twice, we want to reward you and celebrate those mastery that content, and so we are giving you the opportunity to be exempt from the sections on the test. So how do we do that? Students may be exempt from any number of sections, so there isn't a limit on the number of sections you are exempt from. Students may earn exemption from a specific section, and here's what you have to do. 2 things. The first one, you have to earn a 5 out of 5 on the daily. Those reassessment scores also can be included in that. So that's the first thing. The second thing, you have to earn a 10 out of 10 on that review quiz. And remember, no reassessments are given on that. So if those 2 things happen, you will be exempt from lesson 1 or lesson 2 or whatever lesson that you mastered already and showed mastery on. Students will take the test and just skip the sections they are exempt on. And again, the teacher will communicate those exemptions for the students before the test. So they will know ahead of time what sections they have already mastered and do not have to show again. All right. So this reassessment keeps coming up. So how do I earn the reassessment? And so here's what we're going to talk about now. The daily quizzes, remember, the only thing we can reassess. So the purpose of the reassessment is to allow students the opportunity to learn, relearn, and master material from each section or standard needed for success in geometry and also in further math classes, since math does build on each other. If students receive a 4 or below on any daily quiz, he or she will be able to earn 2 other opportunities to retake the daily quiz to show the content learned in the section quizzed over. A higher grade that will replace, yes, you saw replace, the original grade in the gradebook. The students has the opportunity to earn up to a 5 out of 5 on each reassessment. So we want to allow the students to take responsibility and want to, if they want to, meet their higher expectations. We want to give them the opportunity to do so. So reassessments must be scheduled by the student in the email and taken before school. So here's some times that they can retake it. So before school, we have to start before 7:15, or after school before 3:15, during lunch or during study hall, of course. Scheduling must be done at least 1 day prior to the assessment. That's all we ask, just so we can make sure we have all the material ready for the student to come in and retake it. So assessment 1, what do I have to do for assessment 1? Students must have the section homework completed, checked, and corrected. Students must show homework to the teacher. At this point, the grade book in the monitored checks, which we'll talk about later, will need to be a 1 or a 2, and that's just the coding we'll talk about in a second. When this step has been completed, student must email a time for the reassessment if the section or of the section to take place. So if the student has completed their homework, they have checked it, they have corrected it, and has shown the teacher, that earns them the opportunity to retake a similar daily for that section. So say we got a 2 out of 5 on my reassessment number 1, and I just really want to try for a 5 out of 5 because I know that I can be exempt possibly. So we can earn the right to reassess it one more time. And how do we do that? After the student has completed reassessment number 1 but feels as if they want to raise their grade, they can earn reassessment number 2 by contacting myself, Mrs. House, or Mrs. Scott for a one-on-one help session. So this is just a mini tutoring time where you can come in and say, I want to reassess on section 1-8, and I need to do this, and I'm just going to take 15 to 20 minutes with my teacher and just go over what does section 8 talk through and what mistakes might I be making on the other assessments I've taken already. After the one-on-one help session is completed, students can retake the reassessment for that section the same day, or if they want to, if it's too late or they want to maybe come back the next day, if they'll just contact the teacher with the time and day of the reassessment, and we can get that scheduled. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about grading for learning is maybe I didn't have a lot of time to study that night, or maybe I didn't fully understand the lesson that day. I still get the opportunity to have another chance at my grade and earn and succeed at my expectations if I want to. So I'm super excited about these reassessment opportunities for the daily and just what grading for learning is all about, just giving them the opportunity to learn the material and to see what knowledge they have learned and can continue to carry with them for the next math classes that they have. This is video number 1. We're going to get into video number 2. Where we're going to talk about monitored checks. So what does homework look like for grading for learning, and a couple other things. And hopefully grading for learning is a little bit less muddy than it was before. So look for the next video coming up next.